I'm Scott Fishman,
I'm John Dwoskin.
and this is the 7-Minute Salesman.
Welcome, everybody.
Hey, Johnny, what's going on?
Scott, how are you? Good morning.
Doing great, man. Rocking and rolling over here.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's. What are we going to talk about today?
Today, Jonathan, we are going to talk about the socials.
I like the socials. All right, let's dive in. Where should we start?
Well, I think the first and foremost is just a social media audit is always a good thing to do. It really is.
To grow your business and your brand.
To grow your business and your brand is with social media. The very first thing you should be doing is doing an audit, like taking a look at what's on your social media. And we've discussed this before.
Yeah.
However, it's always good to go back and remember that you may have some pictures on your Facebook that you don't want people to see, or your Instagram that might be a little bit risque or NSFW, as the kids say these days.
Yeah, and really important too, especially if you're about to look for a job or looking for a promotion. And yeah, it's really important to do that. And if you can't do that, there's companies out there that can do it for you.
Believe me, your employers are doing it for you.
Yeah. Well, that's for sure. So first and foremost, an audit, right? Because especially, and it's a good time, I think, Fish, to bring this up because we have the holidays around the corner. We have Thanksgiving. We have Christmas. There's going to be lots of holiday parties, and just make sure and be cognizant and conscious of the things that you're putting online.
Right. And what I would do is I would have some things set aside. I would have a decent headshot set aside, not something that I'm cropped out of at a Christmas party. I would have a decent biography of myself set aside, a resume. It doesn't need to be full on exact dates on all these things, but have something prepared so that as you're going through and auditing your social, that you can change your biographies on the fly. You can change your profile pictures. You can make all these adjustments that need to get made without having to go back and reinvent the wheel every single time. Yeah,
that's important. So let's dive into social, Fish. So you've done this audit, and now let's talk about a couple stats, because it amazes me, just as a business coach that's in companies all the time, some of the people who are right. So it's November 2019. We're almost in 2020, and still it amazes me that many companies are kind of stuck in somewhere between 2000 and 2008 when it comes to realizing the power of building your company, building your brand, building your message, and prospecting, and building your retention, and just generating clients from social media. Let's just go over a couple stats before we dive in. And these are from earlier in the year, but still, I think, pretty relevant, right? So there's about 7.5 billion people in the world population. 4 billion of those are internet users. Active social media users, 3.1 billion. Unique mobile users, 5.1 billion. And active mobile social users, 2.9 billion.
Wow.
Now, even if they're off by a billion here and there, because there's all these different studies from 2018, 2019, 2000, doesn't matter, because it still, I think, showcases a lot of people are online, and a lot of people are influenced from what they see, hear, and feel online.
I like that. See, hear, and feel. It's all about how it makes you feel, pal.
Yeah. Well, people buy on emotion for logical reasons, and so yes. It's important to dive into that. So let's break down how they should be thinking about social, Fish. What are some of your thoughts?
Well, the first thing, again, is once we go through an audit, make sure we see what's actually client and customer facing.
Yeah,
and
smart.
On top of that, so that's where we should always be looking, but we should also see what's available if someone looks us up. Like, do we have something that we're neglecting? Like, is there an old MySpace? I don't even know if MySpace exists, but is there like an old something blog that you don't want uncovered, that you just haven't touched because you forgot the password, or it was an old email address? Mm-hmm. Make sure you scrub yourself, like do a deep dive on yourself, So when I talk about audit, I'm talking about making sure that what you have on your Insta, your Facebook, your Twitter is all clean, your LinkedIn, but also making sure there aren't remnants of some other crazy thing in your past that someone's going to uncover and be like, we see it all the time in politics. Like, why did this guy dress up like this that one Halloween in 1947? Do we really want him to be a congressman now? Like, that type of shit, it's not as drastic, but we have to be very mindful of that as we go through and build ourselves a base. You and I started a podcast years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're consistently inconsistent in how often we posted. And I preach that to people I work on social media with now is be consistent.
Yeah.
Don't just stop. But we've been doing this now for a few years. We've got a base. You and I have written books. We've got a base that we can draw from. We've been in business for a long time. We've got a base that we can draw from. But if you don't, make sure you're creating your own narrative. Make sure you're shaping that in the way that makes you look like you're putting your best foot forward.
Yeah. I want to talk about that too, because I think as you're planning out your, Q4, or more importantly, just mapping out your entire 2020, you don't look at other people's things and say, oh, they're so far ahead, they're so far this. It's about starting small and being consistent, right? So by just setting course, I want everybody to really think to themselves, by the end of 2020, they'll look backwards and be able to connect the dots on how they got to 50 this and 20 blog posts and, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to start small. And I think it starts with having a really good editorial calendar. I think that is really, really important, and really mapping out everything you're going to do, and then reverse engineering how you're going to get that content done, and reaching out to it. If you can't do it all yourself, there's so many unbelievable people that can help you build your brand online. Right. There's editors, there's writers, there's designers, there's marketing people, and it's not that expensive. But to me, it's not even looking at it from that standpoint. It's an investment. And if you can pay a little bit and get a great return, that's the key.
Right. And I can challenge you that some of it doesn't even have to cost you anything to learn how to handle this stuff, learn how to post. And actually, there are services that will make posts for you on social media that cost nothing, that you can take advantage of. But I do want to take a step back, John. You mentioned the editorial calendar.
Yeah.
And I can remember when we first started our podcast, you're like, this is going to be great. We'll meet today. One day we'll knock out, 100 episodes. Like, I remember looking at you like, John, what do you realize that this is actually a little bit of work that we're going to be doing? It's a little draining. You were so gung-ho. So I do challenge folks, as you're making this editorial calendar, number one, don't overwork yourself. But number two, don't saturate the market with postings, because people will grow sick of you. It's not like, I don't want you to do one post on a Monday, then wait a week. But at the same time, 5 posts a day is probably not the best idea in the beginning, because you're coming out of nowhere. There are people that are highly successful that post on social media like 10, 15 times a day, but they also have a ton of followers already, and they're providing content. They're providing value to their people. They're not just posting shit to post shit and to be seen. So don't spam your own post. Don't spam your own business. Make sure that what you're posting is relevant to your industry.
Well, let's talk about posting too, because there's so many different things to post, right? So there's your own content, but there's also sharing other people's content, liking other people's content, commenting on other people's content. And I think people want to see a complete, eclectic collection of all of that from you. They want to know what you find interesting, and sharing other people's articles or things of interest. And that goes a long way as well. And so I think a lot of it can be overwhelming for people, but I think it starts, let's just rewind again a little bit more to, it starts with, what do you want? How do you want your brand? What do you want your brand to be? And so a lot of times we're talking to people here who are either own their own company, or it's they're building their brand for themselves while co-branding their company and their platform that they're on, which is great. And so first, get your messaging down of the message and the value that you're bringing your viewers and your followers. That's, I think, first and foremost. And so it's a message, and that is connecting with the people that are that are your people.
Right. And that plays right into what we talked about with building a base. Like
Right.
your base has to be the foundation of everything you're doing, right? So it's your messaging, it's what platforms you're on, it's how often you're posting on those platforms, it's what are you posting on those platforms. There's so many things. We talked about the feels. We need them to get the feels when we're making a post, when we're out on social. We need them we're trying to elicit the right response, not just, hey, John posted something else. Great. I'm going to ignore it. Like, because we've all had that. We've all had that boss that leaves us a voicemail and it instantly gets deleted before you listen to it as soon as you hear their voice. So the same thing, like after a while, if we're not posting relevant stuff, it's never going to be looked at because people are like, oh, it's just another fish post that means nothing. So you have to curate properly.
Yeah. Let's talk about continuity. I know you talked about not overposting, and I agree with that. But let's talk about the idea of just continuity. Blogging, posting, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But if there's some type of predictability that you can put in your, I'll use Tim Ferriss. Tim 5 Bullet Fridays, right? I mean, he has built a huge following and has a great newsletter that goes out every Friday. And so you're going to get something from Tim Ferriss every Friday that talks about some of the things he's using, some of the books he's reading, some of the podcasts he's listening to, and it's great. And you start to kind of build a following based on the predictability of when people expect certain things from you. And
right.
So I think as you build your editorial calendar and you look at the month and the quarter, the first Friday of every month, or every Friday could be this, or every Tuesday could be this, or every other Tuesday. Pick something that is manageable for you and start small and then build from there.
I like it. Be consistent and just kind of like you said, the continuity works. And I'm just laughing in my head as we're talking about this because it's like the shoemaker's kids not having shoes, because the continuity of our podcast, one of the reasons why we've been able to do it and haven't had pod fade and died down completely is because we are so consistently inconsistent with how often we post. So as we're saying, every Friday you get 5 things from Tim Ferriss. It's like every X Sunday you get 7-ish minutes from John and Scott. And it's great every X-ish Sunday, but we really haven't been that consistent. So we apologize, folks.
Well, and I would say that it's part of just the vibe of the podcast.
There you go.
Because to me, because I have a podcast that I Think Business, which I air every Monday and Thursday, and soon to be every Monday, Thursday, Friday. And this one is like, 2 longtime good buddies talking sales. And, and so to me, it's kind of like part of the vibe of the podcast as well. So I know, I mean, maybe we have different opinions on it, but I just think that it's like, we're bringing great content, gives us a reason to talk on Sunday mornings, and, and I get great feedback from people who listen to it. So maybe we can make a commitment to, once we hit 100, we'll do, every Sunday for the Q1.
All right, we'll look into that. But I do think it's funny. Like, we are consistent. It really depends on the lens you're looking through, right?
Right.
From 10,000 feet, we might not be fully consistent, but when you get out to 20,000 feet, we look pretty damn consistent.
Right. I mean, we got almost 100 episodes, Fish. Right. And I will say this too. I really believe that with podcasting, let's just talk about podcasting, because I think everybody talks about, should I get a podcast? Is it oversaturated? My response to that is yes, you should get one. No, it's not oversaturated. But once you get to 100, things, in my opinion, start to change a little bit with the podcast.
Got it.
You just start to get different types of additional followers. And so I'm excited to see, because I think this is episode, what did we say, 97?
97.
Yeah.
Not counting episode 0.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, folks, if you are thinking about starting a podcast, yes, the answer is do it. Don't think that you're going to be serial in the first couple weeks. But definitely start, be consistent, and run. There are thousands of podcasts, if you look on iTunes, that literally had 3 episodes in 2016 and then died. Thousands. So ones that have been around for a while that have stayed consistent, they are finding success. Just you have to, again, remain consistent with this stuff. So, yeah. But also let's look at what we're talking about here. I think there's 2 easy takeaways that we've given.
Yeah.
That we should kind of circle back and kind of round out this episode with, because we do have time coming up. We're talking about the holidays coming, and we're looking for things to do to stay busy, right? The people are picking up the phone as often. We're going to start getting the excuses of call me after the holidays. So there's no reason you can't work on your business during these times. So the first thing, social media audit. Look at all of your socials, what's on there, make sure there's nothing offensive. Second, what platforms do you want to be on? Go through, make sure that you have the proper profile, make sure your bio's in, make sure you have good photographs, make sure everything looks good and it's all cohesive, and make sure they all line up. So when someone clicks on your LinkedIn, it looks similar to your Facebook or similar to your Instagram. It's not a hodgepodge. It's not different. You want one cohesive brand. But then put pen to paper. How are you going to work over the next 6 to 8 weeks to build your brand, and what is your platform going to be? How are you going to trickle it out? You can do services where literally you post something on your blog and it's posted on LinkedIn, it's posted on your Twitter, it's posted here and there, all automatically. We actually have that with the podcast. I have to edit it every time because it doesn't come out right. I don't know why, but every time we post a podcast, it gets posted on my blog and LinkedIn instantly. So there's ways to do that. Services like Crowdfire. You mentioned hiring someone to do these things. Crowdfire is a free service for the most part. They do have paid platforms or paid tiers, but you can schedule out your entire week on a Sunday for social media.
100%.
Crowdfire. Same thing with Buffer. Use them both. They're both free, right? So if you have the free tools, use multiple free tools to overlap and make sure that everything goes in, make sure that you have a cohesive brand, and you can set it and forget it throughout the week.
I love it. And
I just filibuster, and wow.
You just gave a master's class in social media. The only thing I will add to that, Fish, and that was well said, is if you want to build your brand, you need to be on social media. I find a lot of people say, well, do I need it? You need to be on social media. And it takes 3 years to be an overnight thought leader on social media. Wow. And so you want to dive in and you want to brand yourself and your company. I think a lot of times people brand themselves and forget about their company. It's a lot of co-branding as well, and just add value. Doesn't have to mean that every single thing you do is going to be, adding the extreme value add, but just always be thinking value add and give and educate, and you will receive.
I love it, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a great
Thanks,
episode.
Everybody.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Episode 97 is in the can. 3 more to the big 100. Let's see if we can do it before June.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Now, no excuses. It's time to put everything you listen to into action. Stop bullshitting yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Stop listening and doing nothing with this information. Take this information, implement it into your day, kick some ass, grow your business, grow your sales, make more money, have more fun, have a better life, period, the end.
What he said.